Howdy to all my friends out there in TV land. This is Senior Issues, etc. And I'm your host, Vita Verdon. I've got a good show for you tonight. This one's for you, so sit back and relax. Now, the theme of the show today is grease, oil, and a lube job. Now, I'm not talking about your car. Give our car a tune-up, and we pay good attention that it gets that, every so many thousand miles, gets checked up. What I'm talking about is your body. Your body needs a tune-up. So tonight, who I have with me is somebody that has information for us. Not only is he good-looking like a movie star, but what he is one of the best doctors around, and he's been on before, and by popular request, I am so happy to welcome Dr. Howard Baker. Doctor, it's so good to have you here today.
Good to be back. Thank you for having me.
It's been a couple of years since you've been on the show, and we've grown. We're online now, so we have a wider audience, which we're really happy about. And so the routine is, I've gotten to know all those guys out and gals out there, and what they like to know is they like to know something about you, who you are, so they can say, oh, yeah, I heard of him, So if you'd be so kind as to tell us some things about yourself, I'm sure that our friends in TV land would be glad to hear it.
Sure. Well, local, I grew up in Des Plaines, attending Maine East High School. Then after that, went to college, University of Iowa. And then after that, Des Moines University. And then after that, came back to Chicago and did my training at Rush.
Oh.
And have been practicing out now in Mundelein for about 15 years.
Oh, that's good. Now, are you married? Are you single?
I'm married, beautiful wife, Deborah, and I have 3 children, a son, 17, going to be 18, a senior in high school, and he will be attending college next year. And then 2 daughters, a 15-year-old Jennifer and a 9-year-old Julia, who are both now just starting a play at the Paramount Theater, Fiddler on the Roof.
Fiddler on the Roof?
Yes.
The Paramount Theater where?
In Aurora.
In Aurora. Oh, when will they be on?
I believe the play, I'm embarrassed. It's coming on, I think it starts in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Oh, how nice that they're in the theater. Oh,
yes.
That's such a nice experience for them. Well, good for them. Well, first of all, I want one big smacker for your wife.
No, I've been getting a cold. I don't want to spread too much germs. But.
And then for each kid.
Yeah, yes, to all my children.
Oh, good for them. All right. So, like what we're going to start with is grease, oil, and a lube job.
Yes.
And that's a weird expression, but it's a tune-up. And, you are a doctor of internal medicine.
Correct.
So first of all, just, for our audience's sake, for them, what is internal medicine? What does that cover?
Well, internal medicine is a doctor for adults. So if you think about pediatricians, internists are the converse of that. They're doctors for adults, usually starting at about 15, and then for hopefully up to 100, 120.
Now, so your practice is just not open for seniors. It's open like from people from 15 years old, for adults.
Correct.
All right. Okay, but a good portion of your practice is then is with seniors.
Yes, when I was in training, I spent a year as a chief resident working with a geriatrician. Now,
you have to explain to them out there what is a geriatrician.
So a geriatrician is an internist who then goes on to specialize in care of older adults.
Well, let me ask you this simple question. Is the care for older adults much different than for younger?
It's different in that there's different issues, much like a pediatrician has different issues with children versus adults. I mean, we're all part of the same DNA, but different issues for different ages.
Well, like to start with, since the theme is grease, oil, and a lube job, we probably need like certain elements to keep our body in tune.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about like some of the elements.
Well, so as we had talked a little bit earlier, so one of the things that, like a car, human beings also require maintenance. And so what's important for people is that as they age, they have to, it is a good idea, as we had talked about earlier, to be in touch with a physician periodically, to be checked out once in a while. So even if you're in good health, there are still things that you may miss because you do not see them on the surface. And there are certain tests that we do possibly on a yearly or every other year. So for example, simple things are checking your blood pressure. You may have high blood pressure, not even realize you have it. So you could go 75 years, not have high blood pressure, and then all of a sudden acquire it. So the only way you would know that is to be checked. Secondly, people need to be screened for colon cancer, and that's checking your stool regularly. You can't always look in the stool and see that there's blood there. So there are tests that we as physicians can do that can help with that. Other things, and then there's other risk factors.
I wanted to add something to that. Now, for one of the tune-ups that I went in for, I was regularly eating, I am a diabetic, a banana a day, and thinking I was doing really good. And then the tests indicated that I had too much potassium in my system. And so now I'm regulated that I only could eat like a half a banana, and I can only eat like 2 days a week, have a banana. And this, a banana seems healthy, but unless, according to your system, so it goes along to with what you're saying, doctor.
Well, so that even brings up a better point, which is there may be things that you're doing that you're not realizing.
Right.
And even though you may be healthy, coming to a doctor's office, it gives us as a physician a chance to talk to our patients and not only look at certain factors such as blood pressure and colon health and things, but just to to discuss with people to get a sense of what they're doing, how they're living, and it gives us information. Then, in your case, like eating a banana, which for many people is fine, but it's a fruit that's high in sugar and may not be the best choice for a diabetic. And it would give us a chance to have that discussion. And then to look at other factors, such as looking at cholesterol and discussing dietary health to see if maybe things that you think are healthy may in fact not be.
To have an open discussion with your doctor. Okay,
Correct.
so the visits to the doctor are important, and the nutrition is important, and probably some form of movement is important.
Well, I'm a big fan of exercise. I think that just because you get older doesn't mean it's time to sit on the couch and do nothing, as many of you here are doing. You're all older adults and all very active. I think activity is extremely important, not only for the body, but for the mind as well.
So that's part of our tune-up, and that's an important factor. Another thing that we discussed earlier and in the last show, that was kind of the theme of it, is these little gray cells up here, like we have to keep them moving. And we discussed that here we're a volunteer show, and out of 12 people, 7 are over 80 years old, and we are advocates of volunteering. But this old adage, is there any truth to that? Can you help us out a little bit with that? That if you keep them going?
Well, the science is more difficult on that. It's as of yet not proven. However, many of us do believe that being active does help and protect you from what you're concerned about, which is developing dementia. So the question is whether or not activity, both mental and physical, will help prevent the onset of dementia or Alzheimer's disease, multi-infarct. There are several processes that cause dementia. And the science is not 100% clear. Many of us do feel, though, that regular exercise and mental exercises do help with that.
I think one of the reasons that we're living this long is we're in the age of, there's been such an improvement with medicine, and we're in the age of technology. Technology has helped us so tremendously. I don't think we've really caught up with ourselves. I mean, the future will tell, is this proven to be true? So since we're pioneering this, we're always looking for, well, what is the best path to go? But having a tune-up, from a doctor and just taking practical steps, wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely. It's simple things typically that it's not little nuances. It's a lot of times just big things that we miss and that we need to correct and to do.
Now, is there any adage to this? Because I've heard it like a glass of red wine.
Well, that's very controversial.
That is very
Right.
controversial.
So alcohol itself may be the factor, as long as you don't overdo it, 1 to 2 glasses a day. So one of the issues with red wine has been that people that drink red wine may live longer, but it may really be more of a social issue in that red wine typically is more expensive, and that the people who can afford to buy red wine have more financial ability, and it may be that that's what differentiates them. But alcohol, either a shot a day, a beer, or a glass of wine, no more than 2 is healthy, as long as you don't overdo it. Now, obviously, if you have diabetes, you have to take into effect that there are carbohydrates in these products.
Well, we're going to get back to it, but right now, what I'm going to go into is Vita's Pearls of Wisdom. Now, in my Pearls of Wisdom, one of the things that I'm going to contribute to this tune-up, as we're calling it, is I pay attention to, and this is an important factor, because you buy something over the counter and you don't have a prescription for it, it doesn't mean that it can't affect the prescriptions that you're taking. Like when you're going into your doctor, and your doctor should be notified. Myself, as a diabetic, if I take anything over the counter, I don't take anything unless I call my personal physician and ask if it is all right, because I didn't go to medical school, and so that's what I'm engaging a doctor for, to tell me if the ingredients that I'm taking in will counteract with any of my prescription. And this is an important factor that is sometimes overlooked. So I want you all to pay attention to it. I call it brown bagging it. Take anything extra when you're going into the doctor and have the doctor look it over. And the doctor will tell you, what will meet the requirements of what you're taking. So pay attention to that. Another thing is, now, if you go into our website, which is seniorissuesetc.org, when you go in there, then you can pick up, we're on Patch, and we're online, and we're on YouTube. If you go in there, I want you to see our blog, because there is a blog of every show, and if you go online, we must have online now maybe 30 or 35 different shows. You can see any of the past shows, and it's listed by categories. And when you get into our website, seniorissuesetc.org, you can see the different categories that we have in there. And if you'd like to come on the show, you have a suggestion for the show, you'd like to volunteer for the show, or you have any questions, you can contact us, because my email is on there, and also the email of the show is on there. So take a look at that, and you can find many categories, and you can look at the past shows, and you can see that we're in Evanston and 25 miles around. We're online, and we're in most cases in Lake County, and we welcome our new affiliate, which picked us up not too long ago, Vernon Hills, which is on Wednesday evening. So be sure to watch, and we appreciate the increase that we've had in our viewing audience, and I appreciate the blogs I've gotten from the people that have written me, have called me, and the emails that I've gotten, and the comments on the blogs. I appreciate it. Keep it going. We really appreciate everything that you've done. Now, this show has been here for the last 13 years, and this show I can attribute. I wouldn't have a show if there wasn't an audience. So myself and the whole crew of Senior Issues is grateful, and as Dr. Blue Kisses, I blow kisses. This is for myself and my entire staff to you, that we're happy that in spite of everything, we're in here in our 13th year. So, I thank you for this opportunity. Now let's get back to the doctor. Okay, now another area that I think is an area open for discussion greatly between the two of us is the area of falling.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about that.
Well, so as we age, there are receptors and multiple factors here. So the vision may decline somewhat, our hearing may decline, unfortunately. And then there's receptors in our feet which relay information to our brains telling us where our bodies are in time and place. They don't work so well either. And so we tend to be a little less steady as we walk. You know, walking is a very, very complicated engineering feat. And it is a very difficult thing to carry out. We take it for granted how easy it is to walk, but as we age, it becomes more difficult. So one of the things you have to be careful of is balance. If you're having balance issues, you need to have that evaluated. Sometimes a small stroke could be seen and you would never have symptoms.
Let me ask you a question,
Yes.
Doctor. What do you mean by evaluation?
So if you are having balance issues, it's not something you should just assume is related to aging. There
Okay.
may be a potential reason as to why you are having balance issues. Possibly a small stroke could have occurred. Maybe
I
you're
see.
ill. It could even be a medication making you dizzy.
Oh, that's
As people
interesting.
age, we take a lot of medications, and some of them are antihypertensives or blood pressure lowering medications. And when you get up, for example, your blood pressure can fall. Well, if you go to take a couple steps and as your blood pressure is falling, you may get very weak and dizzy and fall to the ground. And another consequence as we get older, sometimes our bones thin. So if you fall inappropriately, you can break something, a hip, for example, and that can have very bad consequences.
Well, I know, a person should do things around their home. I've had a fall, so I have done things around my home, like I don't have loose rugs. I have clear pathways. I check the caster on my little stepladder. I don't use the stepladder anymore, and I don't have any chairs with coasters on them.
I think that's great. Absolutely, I would encourage you and agree that keeping a path clear so that you can walk through, you know, and unfortunately, if you have to use a walker or some other device, that you have a clear pathway so that it's easy to use these devices within the home.
All right. Now, Doctor, what we'd like you to do now is kind of like summarize the whole thing, like for a tune-up, like what a person should do so they can like take it in and absorb it in these little gray cells.
Well, I think that's a very vast subject, but the simple things to do are make sure you're in touch with your doctor as you get older so that you have the ability, in case there's an issue, to talk to someone. I think it's very important to maintain a level of fitness, both mentally and physically. And no matter how old you are, studies show that even in nursing homes, people who exercise regularly, who lift weights even, they still can gain muscle mass, which can help you to prevent falls and maintain your body.
And there's no age level.
There is absolutely no age level. I mean, obviously there may be certain physical limitations, but you should absolutely, when at all possible, exercise on a regular basis. And I think being active is also extremely important. And the other thing is eating healthy. You know, you get to a certain point, there's no reason not to think that you've made it and you can now do whatever you want, but still, you know, trying to maintain a proper diet and eating and having good nutrition.
I think one area that we really haven't gone into, and if you could go into that a little bit, is arthritis.
Well, you know, as we age, arthritis is a fairly common event. It's not clear, though, 100% why we get it when we were older. You know, everyone assumes it's because the joints wear out.
On that. It's not
Well,
real clear,
you can X-ray people to see arthritic changes in
I
the bone,
see.
but that doesn't always correlate with the fact that you have arthritic pains. So it's very common for people to get arthritis. And to get back to something earlier you mentioned, when you take over-the-counter pills. So, for example, if you get an arthritic pain, you may say, oh, I have pain in my hip, my knee, and you may reach for an Advil or ibuprofen or some other anti-inflammatory. That pill may have interactions with some of the pills you take. So it is, in that case, very important to be in touch with your physician to let them know that you're doing so. People can get kidney failure from those medications. They can cause bleeding in the stomach, and I've seen both of these happen on a regular basis. So if you have arthritis, it's very important to at least do something and talk to your physician so that they at least know and can make suggestions and look at your medications to be certain that you're not mixing and matching on your own.
Now, about what percentage of your business, of your clientele, would you say is seniors?
Well, my personal practice is probably about 50%, maybe
About
60,
50%?
maybe 50 to 60.
And how does it differ from the rest of your practice?
Well, it's not so much that it's different. It's just different issues come up. So, for example, you know, a 25-year-old is going to have less likely arthritis. So I'm not going to see that much in a 25-year-old. But in someone who's 75, that's a common presentation. So as people age, you're doing more disease management.
And since this is seen online, and since it's seen in such a vast area, just explain where you're located, where Mundelein is.
Well, Mundelein's a northwestern suburb, and my office is in Mundelein. It's next to Mundelein High School on Midlothian and Route 176.
So it's in the northwest suburbs of Chicago.
Correct.
So we just want to make all that clear. Now, you've been practicing there for a little bit more than 15 years, right?
Correct.
And what have you seen the changes over the last 15 years? I think you probably have experienced that people are living longer.
Well, people are clearly living longer, but people are also, even though we're living longer, we're living with more ill health as well. So there's a lot
more ill health.
Yes. So
that's really interesting. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, unfortunately, as we age, things break down, and so there are more diseases out there that we're living with, and we can treat them, but we're managing chronic diseases.
It's like the maintaining of
correct.
The maintaining of diseases.
Yes.
So this is an area that we really have to develop at a higher level.
Yes.
Is how to, because of the longevity.
Correct. Well, I see a lot of diabetes now. And as we age, our risk of developing hypertension approaches 95% if you live to 90 years old.
And what is hypertension?
So hypertension is high blood pressure, and it's the force of blood that's exerted on the blood vessels. And if you think that blood vessels are not just conduits that take blood from the heart to other areas, they're actually living structures. They're cellular. So you can damage blood vessels and thus cause heart attacks, strokes, and have problems with the legs as well. You can develop blockages in there as well.
So what is the maintenance of that?
So it's taking high blood pressure pills. And there's a multitude of them. So very important to make sure that if you do have high blood pressure, that you're taking them on a regular basis. So unfortunately, people will skip them, not forget about them, but then your blood pressure, rises and falls, and that can be dangerous. So very important to, when you take medications, to stay consistent and take them regularly.
So do you see the future being technology that we'll be getting doctors who are on the computer?
Well, many of us are now. I've had a computer in my office for years, and we keep all of our records on computer. It's definitely going that way, and the government is in a sense mandating that. The issue will be connectivity. Is just because you're on a computer, you want to open it up so that everyone's connected.
So you mean every doctor is connected?
Well, that you have portals that other doctors who share patients with you can look at your portal as well as I could share with them. Right now, we're not at that point, but it would be much easier so that, for example, if you go to the nephrologist or kidney specialist, I would have access to their records as long as I were the physician of record, and vice versa, or the cardiologist, the heart doctor. So if you go to the heart doctor right now, I depend on them to send me a note. If that doesn't happen, I may not know that you visited them and may not know that there was a change in medication. So by opening up portals between doctors, it would make it easier for better communication.
Because, seeing what's happened, from the movie stars and that, and how they have access to drugs, I've never understood that, under Michael Jackson's case, that he goes to one doctor and then go to another doctor. They're not in communication with one another.
Right.
This is what we're talking about.
Yes. So communication is key, and it's not always practiced effectively.
So we're right in the midst of making these technical links.
Yes. Absolutely. We're sort of in the beginning stages of all this, and it's booming, but the dust has to settle yet. They haven't quite figured out how to do all this.
And as I was saying, I'm 80, and I've had to bring myself into the 21st century, and I am on the computer. I am operating it, but I'm fortunate to have somebody with the show who's more skilled than me, who is made links from our website to YouTube to our blog and all these things. And I am learning firsthand on the vitalness of these links, like how potent that is, that we are in this age of technology, so we're all in this together and we're all growing together. Now, one of the things, if you could take a couple of minutes on, and it's something that I ask everybody, so if you could, like, right into that camera, that's the camera that's focused on you, and pour your heart out to it, to the camera, to be encouragement to people. Now, as a doctor, for you, we just appreciate how articulate you are in expressing, what we need, like for a tune-up, and where does your passion lie, and what type of gratification do you get? Because a lot of it, like, overwhelms me, but that's why I'm not a doctor of internal medicine, and I'm sitting here as a senior. Like, what are you getting out of it? And what would encouragement to our audience? What do they do?
Well, from a doctor's perspective, one of the things that we always get gratification out of is settling a tough case, helping someone in their life. So, yes, you can make a living as a physician, but one of the factors that brings you into medicine is the fact that maybe you make a difference on someone's life on a day-to-day basis. It's not always the big things. Sometimes it's the little things. Taking a diabetic, for example, and having them eat right, getting them, or having someone stop smoking. You know that you may not see the results, the fruits of your labor for many years, but maybe you've saved them from developing lung cancer later on. So it's the little battles that you win on a day-to-day basis that keep you going. Sometimes a hug from a patient just is enough to make you feel good that day, that you've done something, that you've made an impact in someone's life. And that's not something that that's something that carries a lot of weight.
Oh, that's good. Well, what we'd like you to do is, you've been an encouragement to us, and you talked me into it. I need a regular tune-up, that you'll come back periodically and give us your advice, because you're always a welcome sight for us. And I want you to go to that website and tune in and see all the shows. And don't forget to read the blog on Dr. Howard, because we're going to have gas, oil, and a grease job and a lube job, a tune-up, so that we want you to see the blog and see the shows over and over again. And you know what time it is now? What we've come to, when you out there, I'm talking to you, you sitting on the couch there, when you come to the end of your rope, what you do is you tie a knot and you hang on, because the best is yet to come. What we want you to do this week is catch the spirit.